From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Welcome to the Exit Planning Coach podcast. I'm John F. Dini, and usually I'm your host for a guest advisor who is talking about building their practice and how they deal with clients. Today, however, I first wanted to wish you a happy new year. Hopefully 2023 is going to be a lot better than 2022. And I want to talk a little bit about what we are seeing in the economy, what I'm expecting as an advisor. And that'll take up the first half of the show, and then we'll take our usual break. And then the second half of the show, we're going to talk about what advisors can do for their business planning clients as some of the challenges that we see happening occur. You know, it's become fashionable to predict a recession, and it's inevitable. I don't believe that there's any possibility that the world avoids a very widespread recession. The inflationary situation in the United States, the amount of money we've flushed into the system, not only from stimulus bills, everybody points to this stimulus bill or that stimulus bill, but certainly the stimulus bills pale compared to the $6 trillion in quantitative easing, which the Fed added to the money supply. So that plus the inflation means the United States is going to have to slow down a little bit or a lot. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Then we have Europe. Failure of leadership there is 10 years of people telling them that they're far too dependent on fossil fuels from Russia and that Russia was not a dependable business partner. Didn't seem like rocket science to me, but it apparently was to the leadership of most of the European Union countries who are now shocked that Russia has turned out to not be a reliable business partner. So they are lucky in that their winter has been fairly mild so far. But if the winter gets harsh, it's going to be very problematic. And it's almost definitely going to be problematic for next winter, because I don't think they're going, nothing I've seen says they can build the importation capacity necessary to live without Russia. And then the third one is China. And China's lockdowns obviously affected their productivity, affected their GDP, it affected their population. I'm not sure what they're doing now. As a critical thinker, I look at their sudden relaxation of almost all COVID restrictions. And sorry, but I don't believe it's just because there were protests in the street and they worry about their people protesting. They've never worried a whole lot about that before. Whether it's to do some balancing of their economy, whether they think they can get quick herd immunity with Omicron. They're doing nothing to stop their people going home in February for the Lunar New Year, which means that anybody in the cities is going to be fanning out by the literally hundreds of millions of people going out into the countryside. So if you wanted to spread a virus, that's the best way I could possibly design to do it. Our media seems to think that it's because they're stupid. They're not stupid. There's a plan here. Xi Jinping has an idea what he wants to come out of this with. He doesn't want to bring his own country to its knees, but it will slow down their economy and they will have something that looks a lot like a recession. So between the three economic centers of the world hitting stuff at the same time, that's definitely going to impact. What bothers me now is the fact that so many people are coming out and, the Fed stopped doing 75 basis point hikes and they did a 50 basis point hike and everybody's singing happy days are here again. Oh, it's going to be a mild recession. Oh, there's too much money on the sideline in household savings. The unemployment is too low. The job market is too tight for there to be a real recession. I've got a friend who's a financial planner, and he has said for years, When the little old lady in tennis shoes starts giving you stock tips, it's time to get out of the market. And I feel the same way about this sudden last 3 or 4 weeks switch to, oh, we're not worried about a recession. It's going to be mild. We're going to bounce right out of it. It'll be okay. When everybody's saying it, I begin to suspect that they're all just drinking the Kool-Aid. So I don't know that it's going to be a mild recession. What I see is, and you'll have to pardon me because I'm going to have to look at some of my numbers here because I'm doing more research. We know what the Great Recession was like, and that was caused by home financing. Housing is not grinding to a halt, but it's not real good. You know, the prices escalated very, very rapidly. Zero interest or close to it, 2%, 2.5% mortgages was allowing people to buy up, and that has stopped. Obviously, the increase in mortgages, new home starts have fallen precipitously. Home sales have fallen precipitously. You've got a lot of owners saying, well, my house was worth, X number of dollars, and I'm not going to take less because, it's a temporary hiccup. So I'm not going to put my house on the market if I'm only going to get Y. We all know what it feels like when you buy a stock at $10 and it goes to 20 and then it goes back to 15 and you sell it, and you feel like you lost $5, right? It's the same thing with homeowners. The house next door to me sold for $700,000 6 months ago. I'm not selling mine for $650 now. So fewer houses coming on the market, and the buyers are constrained. The buyers were looking at how much a $30,000 or $40,000 down payment could buy at 2.5% money, and that down payment, the cash flow needs for 5% or 6% or 7% money are so much greater. And we'll talk about that in the commercial sense in a couple of minutes. So housing is 15 to 18% of the gross domestic product. Construction falls as a trailing indicator. So we see when housing starts have slowed down already. Commercial construction has a long pipeline. You've got the approval process, the financing process, the bid process, the construction process. We have always seen in every recession that construction continued for 6 months, a year, 18 months after the numbers got really bad. And after they got good, construction didn't pick up again for another 12 or 18 months. So construction's going to be hit. Real estate's going to be hit. If you're not selling houses, there's an awful lot of real estate agents out there that are not making commissions. So all that together means that a large chunk of the economy is going to get very, very slow. Will it drag everything else down with it? It's going to drag furniture sales down. It's going to drag, home improvement sales down. A lot of this was driven by the surge in the pandemic when we had all this cash to spend on goods and we couldn't spend it on services. One estimate is something like 25% of our gross domestic product shifted from services to goods virtually overnight, which is why you couldn't get a 2x4 in Home Depot. And so that is done. And retailers, we always act as if the good times are going to last forever. We act as if the bad times are going to last forever. So retail has gone from about 20 square feet per capita in the mid 2000s leading up to the Great Recession. Now we're even higher. Now we're at almost 24 square feet per capita, and vacancies are down to 6% of retail space. Rents are up 16% on retail space. This is nationwide, United States numbers. And I don't see how that holds. A lot of people jumped into retail because of the pandemic surge. A lot of people expanded their operations, increased inventory. We've already seen Walmart and Amazon say they're over inventoried. So these are real live issues, and I think a lot of retailers are going to get smacked. That buying surge is gone. It's not going to last, and now they're paying higher rents, and I think you're going to see a lot of space opening up. The offices are at 50% occupancy. In New York, it's only 30%. Some of the other cities at 60 or 70%, but we still haven't seen the shakeout in office space. So I don't know that it's going to be a mild recession. I'm cautious. I would like to see that happen, but I think we can also see a domino effect from construction to real estate to retail. We're talking about the top 4 categories for business ownership in the country. Okay, number 1 is services, and both labor and inflation is crippling services. Whether you're an accounting firm, an architectural firm, food supplier, nobody can get help. We all hear this from our business owners all day. I consult as a coach, with about 30 business owners a month, and everybody's screaming about labor. Retail is the number 2 business. There's 9 million service businesses. There's 3 million retail businesses. I think I just gave you the reasons I think retail is going to get hit. Finance and real estate is next with 2 million businesses. I just told you why they're going to get hit. And 4th is construction with 1.5 million businesses. Already had that conversation. So I think the top 4 business ownership categories in the country are all very much exposed to this slowdown in housing and buying and consumer spending. And I think we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but I wouldn't be making all my plans on a mild recession that we just pop out of. So we're going to take a break now. And when we come back, I'm going to talk directly to our advisor audience on what our advisors can be doing for their clients.
How would your practice survive if only 25% of your clients were happy with your work? How many referrals would you get? Would you advertise that success rate? Over the last decade, both the Exit Planning Institute and PwC have surveyed owners and found that 75% were profoundly unhappy a year after their exits. In 10 years, the exit planning industry has done little to fix this issue. Business owners need purpose, direction, and activity after exiting. Planning for that starts with your very first coaching conversation. We work with advisors who believe that clients should be happy after exiting. ExitMap is a structured discovery process that helps you have deeper conversations about client options, objectives, and life after the business. We help you launch better transitions. Take a test drive at exitmap.com.
Welcome back. Thank you for sitting through the pitch for my new book, which is not talking about the economy. It's talking about how to work with business owners, which is what we're going to talk about in the second half of my podcast today, is working with business owners. What can you do for an owner who is at or near their exit plan stage? They don't necessarily have to be walking out today, but certainly they want to start figuring out where they go next. Certain things you're going to have to accept. Okay. Company valuations will decline. The PE money that ran around chasing businesses and pushed the average for a mid-market company to 5.5 and then 6 and then 6.5. And then 2 years ago, it actually topped 7 times EBITDA for a little while. That just stopped. That was based on cheap money. And as a matter of fact, I think we're going to see a lot of PE deals crater because they're on 3-year or 5-year resets of their financing. When they bought the company, they said, well, we'll leverage it up. We'll take our cash back out. We'll put debt in there. And because we've got our cash flow is 2 times debt service needs, we've got 100% over coverage there. That's plenty. Well, it was 2 times debt service needs when you had 2.5% money in there. When you have 5% money in there, you have 0 left. And PE investors aren't crazy about a 0% return. So I think you're going to see a lot of divestiture from these PE acquisitions. So values will decline. They'll go back to their historical average. I just saw a report from Biz Equity the other day that in a number of industries we're already back to the historical average for Main Street and lower mid-market companies. And you're going to have the same problem that we have with homeowners. Oh, I thought my business was worth $5 million. A year ago, PE people were talking to me about $5 million and I didn't sell. Now they're talking to me about $3.5 million. Well, hell, I'm not selling a $5 million company for $3.5 million. It's going to take a while for people to get over that impression. Okay. A corollary to that is financing. When the markets are hot, financing is everywhere. When the markets are cratering, financing is nowhere. You couldn't get financing for an acquisition deal in the beginning of 2009 for love or money. I mean, there was just nobody wanted to talk about acquisition financing. I don't think we'll get that bad again, but it's going to be more expensive and it's going to be harder to get. So, especially on the Main Street side, where people were getting a lot of deals that didn't maybe pass the 5 Cs with a local bank as great as they used to, but the banks had all this money that they needed to lend out because it doesn't do any good on their balance sheet as cash. Those are going away. Okay. And so you've got the same problem as with housing. Owners of businesses expect their valuation of a year ago. Buyers of businesses are looking at their financing and it's twice as expensive to get debt as it was a year ago. So these are the things that you need to be talking to your clients about and telling them the realities of the world. And if they want to plan long-term being 3 to 5 years for when the economy turns around again, that's fine. You may want to put some management in for the beginning of a buyout and give them some ride along, like appreciation rights or something. If they do get to sell to a third party a couple of years down the road, that's a way to buy time. But the financing is going to be harder to get, and the prices right now are not going to be as good. The valuations will be down. Now, we're already seeing, and everybody has seen it, we do the National Exit Planner Survey, and we've all seen that people that specialize in exit planning have seen increases in the number of approaches from clients year after year after year. And I'm sure when we do our next survey in February, we're going to find out the same thing again. It's easy. I mean, the boomers are now 56 years old or older. Actually, it's a new year, so they're 57 years old or older. And they still own about 50% of the businesses in the United States with 5 or more employees. And they are going to have to leave. As John Brown at PEI has said for many, many years, sooner or later, every owner leaves their business, whether they want to or not. These people with 20-year-old companies and 25-year-old companies and 30, 40-year-old companies, they stuck it out through the dot-com crash. They stuck it out through 9/11. They stuck it out through the Great Recession. They stuck it out through the pandemic. They want out. And they want out in rapidly increasing numbers. So, there's nothing keeping them now. The spending is going to go down, the economy is going to go down, and they can't get help. So running a business becomes even tougher, and a lot of them are going to want to leave. So what can you do for them? There's a couple of ways that you can address this. I just mentioned one. An internal transfer or a partial internal transfer that keeps a management team on and highly motivated until either to buy it out completely in a leveraged buyout or until such time as the third-party purchasing market frees up a little bit, de-ices a little bit, and then the owner can go out and bring the employees along for the ride. That's one. Creativity and structuring. Now, I have one advisor that I work with who specializes in showing people how they can sell their company for more money to an internal buyer than an external buyer. And it has to do with, the time value of money, and it has to do with getting installment payments and continuing income, but it's doable. So if somebody says my business was worth $5 million a year ago, I don't want to sell it for less. Well, maybe you can still structure an internal sale for $5 million. It will take longer for them to get their money, and they may want to deal with the security issue of having the employees owe the money a little differently. But when the third-party buyer is not available, internally structured sales can be very, very lucrative. Owner financing, seller financing, installment sales. Can they get a better price if they take some more risk? The price and risk are always corollary to each other. So perhaps they can get in buyers who can't afford a 5% or 6% or 7% loan and can't carry that, but they can take some subordinated debt and the tax advantages of installments or having them buy another piece of the company down the road, or keeping a little stock in the game and keeping an eye on the company for a few years. All these are options that you can show to your clients who are ready to exit. And then finally, as I mentioned, the staff, your employees. Your employees are the value of your company. In ExitMap, when we talk about company readiness, all we talk about is the management team, because I can give a client all the great ideas on how to improve their sales process, widen their funnel, go through their pipeline, document their systems better, clean up their financial records. But if they don't have a management team, all the great ideas in the world are not going to get implemented. So take care of the management team. If you've got good people, take good care of them, because they are what is going to allow you to sell your business, or they are going to be the buyers for your business. Either way, developing your people is the number one priority, or should be the number one priority for all your clients when you go to look at their company and their readiness to move on to the next stage of their life. That's it. We try and keep these things to 20 minutes. That's what I see coming down the pike. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope you have a great new year, and we will be back again in a couple of weeks talking to other advisors about what they're doing with their clients and giving advisor to advisor counsel, as we've been doing all along in this podcast. Thank you. Happy New Year.